Hi, it's me, Stitches. Willkommen, bienvenue, and welcome back to my channel. As it is still the spooky season, I am going to be doing a side project. Something I wanted to do for a little bit, and something that I can use for Renfest and or photo shoots, whatever. I'm going to take this H&M hat that has seen better days and has some holes in it, and I am going to turn it into a witch's hat. I got this at the thrift store for $2.99. Again, this is an H&M hat, and let's go ahead and get that started. So let's go. So first things first, we're going to have to develop our pattern. As there are apps where you can find out the math for a cone, but a cone is basically just a 1/4 skirt. And as you can see here, I'm just putting a pin into the carpet and using some twine to make this a rounded edge after folding it like a snowflake. And that's going to give me the 1/4 circle that I need. I then place around the brim so that I can actually get a true measurement of how wide I need to cut this, and I make a mark and then cut to the very point. And after I make my cut, I go ahead and verify that it is going to fit. I will have to add seam allowance to this so that I can sew it later on. For the brim itself, I just basically traced the actual hat and added seam allowance to it. As you can see here, I used a pin to get the center of the hat so that I can actually get a nice circle. I then went ahead and traced everything out so that I can see everything better. And right here I'm just doing the magnet trick where you basically just measure out however many magnets it takes to do a 1/2 inch and then just cut around it. That way you don't have to mark your seam allowance. And it actually works very well. Remember to mark all your patterns for what it is so that later on you can go back and maybe recreate it or make changes. Again, you don't want to find a piece of paper and be like, what is this for? So mark your patterns and mark if there is seam allowance or if there is no seam allowance. Then just go ahead and cut it out of the fabric. For the center of the hat, I did leave an extra 1/2 inch seam allowance so that I could clip the edges so they would be able to sit flush against the top of the hat. And as the cone is being placed on the fold, I did fold it in half so that I wouldn't have too big of a point. I also went back to the magnet trick and did my seam allowance. I did start off by placing the fabric around the brim and clipping my corners so that I could slide it over. I first stitched down the center so that I would know that nothing's going to move. Here I am, sewing the two parts together and then flipping it inside out over the top of the brim. Remember, this is a circle, and to go ahead and clip your seam allowance, this will help it lay better over the turn of the curve itself. And then I sequentially went around the rim at 1/2 inch increments, so I could basically make this like a bucket hat. Now, this was something you don't have to do, but I did it. I took off the original band from the hat itself and then stitched it over the top of my fabric. This, again, you don't have to do. You could leave it just the way it is, but I wanted to put the band back to where it was and make it look like it was store-bought. I then went ahead and stitched up the seam allowance on the cone. I did flip the unfinished edge under so that it would basically be allowed to be top stitched. Here I am just putting some fluff on the inside of the hat to give it some body, and I had to fix a little hole in the hat. You don't have to do that, I did. But as you can see here, well, maybe you can't, I tucked the edge under and then just top stitched it to the very last circle of the hat. And with that, when I'm finished with this pretty much, we can go ahead and do the reveal. So here it is. Ta-da! So hopefully you enjoyed that reveal of how I made my witch's hat for the spooky season. And if this is the type of content that you are interested in, remember to follow my other socials and subscribe, like, and share. It does help out this channel. So follow me back again for our continuation of our 13 weeks of Genderween, which is in the playlist on my platform. So see you next week with yet another project for the holiday season and or for cosplay. So, juicy!